Okay, so I have to discuss this because I had to get clear in my head what the difference between monoclonal antibodies and natural antibodies. Okay, so there's two different types of antibodies, and this is how biotech bioengineers antibodies to program and alter the programming in your body, to program the body to have a specific purpose. Okay, so when I was younger over in California, all of the different pollens and the grasses and all of that, that induces an immune response. So antibodies get created. And so when you're sneezing and you're getting used to a new microbiome of the new pollens in the atmosphere, then the body induces antibodies to counter it. So the pollen, the excess pollen, is called antigen. Okay? Anything that induces an antibody to keep the balance, whatever triggers that is an antigen. But what's an antigen? It's not a specific thing. It's a specific intention. It's a type of trigger point. Antigen is what people would say it's like pathogenic. Okay, but what would make something pathogenic? Because anything could be antigen, but it doesn't mean everything is pathogenic. No, it's how it responds to your body. So when the medical holistic industry are trying to induce antibodies, well, here, okay, how do I say this? So you have your natural defenses where you walk into an area where there's a lot more of elements or biodiversity, and the body has to balance out. That creates antibodies, and then you blow your nose, you sneeze. Okay, those are antibodies. Those are naturally created antibodies. Okay, and so then if you're on a very healthy body like someone on jelly juice, when they blow their nose, they're releasing the excess antibodies. That's the antigen, which is the excess stuff in the body that the body doesn't need. So that's called antigen. When they're doing these COVID-19 sample testing, okay, because COVID-19 is a virus that will induce antibodies in people, but people adapt very quickly. But not everybody does. Some people have major predispositions, and so they have continuous antibodies being produced trying to release the excess programming. And so these yellow garbed sample takers for the COVID-19, right now you've seen a post where they're going around in Cleveland and asking people to voluntarily give up samples of their DNA so they can test to see who is positive. I'm saying no to this, and I'll tell you why. Not because I don't want to be tracked. That's not the issue of the samples of the COVID-19 DNA samples voluntarily being given. It's not being tracked. It's not being whatever. It's the fact that they're taking those samples and they're bioengineering antibodies to put in the vaccines, and then they inject somebody, which on a weak body may not be able to take somebody else's programming. Because every virus that hits a person's immune system, their body, they not only take on the virus programming, but also the person's programming. Okay? And then it gets bioengineered to create antibodies. And when you have so many antibodies being produced, that actually attacks you at the micro level and can deaden you if you don't evolve quickly and release those antibodies and then regenerate simultaneously. Okay? So monoclonal antibodies, I'm going to read them to you. This is from the Mayo Clinic, so you understand what monoclonal antibody drugs for cancer or whatever, or for vaccines. Okay? If you're considering monoclonal antibody therapy as part of your cancer treatment, learn about these drugs carefully and weigh the benefits against the potential side effects. Monoclonal antibody drugs, or for the vaccines, are whatever treatments, okay? Because cancer is evolution, so trying to stop evolution. That enlists natural immune system function to fight cancer or fight evolution. These drugs will be used in combination with other cancer treatments, evolution treatments. If you and your doctor are considering using monoclonal antibody drugs as part of your cancer treatment, find out what to expect from this therapy. Okay, therapy is all about fighting evolution. How does the immune system fight cancer? Okay, hold on. What is a monoclonal antibody? Okay, monoclonal antibodies are laboratory-produced molecules engineered to serve as substitute antibodies that can restore, enhance, or mimic the immune system attack on cancer cells. Cancer cells are the body's trying to evolve, and you're not giving it what it needs, just so you know. Okay? They are designed to bind to antigen. Antigen is whatever they deem is poisonous or deem that is the enemy. And antigen could be anything. It could be what's in your environment that you have to adapt to, such as pollen, or antigen could be whatever that monoclonal antibody is targeting. Okay? And so that's where you have to understand how this works as far as perception and context. antigen in the context of going outside during the springtime and being exposed to a bunch of pollen, and then you're sneezing. Those are antibodies coming out of your body because it is taking on the pollen programming, and then any excess that the body doesn't need, then it comes out in your mucus. And that's why you don't want to dry up your mucus with mucus drying agents, because then you are taking on excess program that will cause more degradation. You are actually drying up the antibodies that are sticking to your body, and you're not releasing the excess. Okay? So whenever you're doing the Jilly Juice, you want to stay away from mucus drying agents. You don't want to be taking any of the Theraflus or the what do you call it? The NyQuils, all that. No, you don't want to do any of that stuff. So what they're doing is they're designing to bind to antigens that are generally more numerous on the surface of cancer cells than healthy cells. And see, here's the thing. Cancer cells, antigen is evolution. They're trying to basically find the viruses, because remember, we said this a long time ago, viruses are the catalyst to cancer, but cancer is evolution. And the person is not giving their body what it needs, and so that's why they're in continuous evolution pain. And this is what the system is trying to stop, is you feeling the evolution. But that's what cancer is. It's evolution, but people are not fighting that cancer correctly, or fighting the evolution correctly. And you don't want to fight it, but you have to be able to feed your body correctly so you don't ever have to have cancer. Okay? And so cancer replication, this is the thing. I mean, that's the thing is with antibodies, when you have so many antibodies that are causing the programming, they're destroying you and they're attacking it. And that's what cancer is the amount of antibodies attacking your cells, not allowing you to evolve. Okay? And so, you know, when you're inducing so many monoclonal antibodies, that's what goes on. That's what they're testing for. That's what these COVID voluntary tests are. They have to get a certain amount of samples from the population to justify the amount of vaccines that will induce an immune response, an evolutionary response in everybody, and then the way you deal with it is then relative to if you live or die longevity-wise, okay? And so they get enough samples of the population, then it will justify all the different types of vaccines for people who are Asian, who are African American, who are Caucasian, and they will put the demographics. This is a 46-year-old Vietnamese woman that lives here, and this is a 55-year-old Black African American that lives in this area. And then I'm sure they're not only going to do testing for COVID, they're going to test for all the other predispositions to figure out how the COVID is impacting those other predispositions. I'm telling you, those testing is not because they're trying to track you. They're trying to figure out how to bioengineer antibodies to induce an immune response and to then stop actual evolution in your body. So, the thing, like I know in my book, I talk about antibodies and cancer, and yes, cancer is an evolution process, but the antibodies is what causes someone to die. Okay, viruses bring up evolution, and then the way in which you deal with that evolution is the reason why you die. And so, what do I put in here? Because it's really, it's kind of insane when you think about how this works. Page 17. I don't know. Antibiotics, anti-life, inhibiting cell replication. Pain and upgrade. The leading cause of death is heart attacks. Okay. Cancer comes from imbalances in your microbiome. So your body's trying to evolve, okay? And then you have imbalances. Cancer is the uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells, which is an evolution process, but you have to feed your body correctly. Cancer develops when the body's normal control mechanisms stop working. Old cells do not die, instead grow out of control, forming new abnormal cells. They're not even new and abnormal. They're trying to evolve, but you're not giving your body what it needs, and then you apply monoclonal antibodies to then compound the issue. Okay? The extra cells may form a mass tissue called a tumor. Some cancers, such as leukemia, do not form tumors. So in turn, more antibodies get created to keep the balance. So when you have compound weaknesses, antibody accumulation or infection in your microbiome, in your fatty acids, okay, cause more infection from disturbances in your microbiome. It becomes a never-ending vicious cycle. And then on top of that, nutritional malabsorption happens along with stagnancy in the digestive process and lymphatic system. When antibodies accumulate without a proper release of excess, they will then agglutinate, cause more infection, more the body trying to evolve, and then creating benign or malignant tumors from abnormal cells replicating faster over normal healthy cells than the application of antibiotics and antimicrobial. And this is when the reaction to your body evolving is what causes then the acceleration of the death process. Okay, so it's not the fact that they're doing all this testing, and everything. It's not because they're trying to track you. They're trying to bioengineer antibodies, monoclonal antibodies, to use in therapies to cause more people to be dependent on the system. Okay, you're already being tracked. Anytime you commit yourself to the medical holistic and you're giving blood samples and urine samples and feces samples, it's already in the system. The testing here is not because they're trying to track you. They're trying to then justify more DNA samples to create more monoclonal antibodies, bioengineered to create then their version of antigen, which is the evolution cells. Okay, and then they're also doing these tests where they have some kind of like hydrogel with nanoparticles that will look for all viruses, all evolution in the body, and then it has a color, where it has like an ink dye that lets the blood that's in that lights up in the blood when you put a specific, like when they're in the lab and they have this petri dish and you have a thing of blood in there, and then they add their little nanoparticle type of testing for all the different viral evolution, and then it colors the different cells that have viral evolution to it, and that's how they bioengineer stuff. It's very, very technical and it's very, very scientific, but that's exactly what's going on. You're already being tracked. Social media, your phone, all that stuff, that's not the issue. It's the fact that they're bioengineering monoclonal antibodies for the vaccine. And then when the vaccines are given to half the population, then they shed, and then you pick it up, just unbeknownst to you, you pick it up, and then you then are being exposed to those bioengineered monoclonal antibodies. Okay? And then they're using those monoclonal antibodies that they've bioengineered from the samples that you've given in these COVID testing for then therapies such as the drugs to deal with the COVID. So if you don't get a vaccine, let's just say, and then you have complications and you go to the hospital, like I see my anti-vaxxers say, oh, I don't believe in vaccines. I don't believe in vaccines or modern medicine, but yet they take their kids to Stanford to get all of these different procedures that are getting the therapies, that are doing exactly the same thing that the vaccines were doing to them to begin with, that they were railing against. You see how crazy it is that people don't understand exactly truly what's going on as far as antibodies and versus prostaglandin inhibitors and all that, and then prostaglandins. And so you've got to understand that it's not about tracking you, it's about bioengineering antibodies to attack you at the micro level to keep you stagnated, not to keep you devolving. So your aging process is so much under control to where they know exactly when you're going to die. And they can predict that just by looking at your blood. Your blood type, the surface marker antigen of the beast, that exactly is a mark of the beast, is a surface marker antigen. That's the blood types. When you have blood type A, B, and D, and other types of letters, not O, those have all the different surface marker antigen, which is types of bioengineered antibodies and proteins that induce antibodies on a continuous basis. And that's what they're doing with the vaccines, is trying to put a programming where anytime they see any kind of evolution, it automatically induces an antibody response. That's autoimmunity. And then those antibodies attack your cells. And that's what people who have lupus, fibromyalgia, MS, all these different autoimmune disorders, that's based upon the body's has a program in the body where it's produced that they're looking for all this antigen, which is evolution, which all the different viruses you've been exposed to, it's evolution. And every single time you evolve, bam, another antibody comes in and attacks you. And then people are taking the cannabis and all the different, chemotherapies and stuff to then even further compound the de-evolution. More antibody acquisition from the cannabis and the chemotherapy and all the different protocols and therapies out there, turmeric, ginger, diatomaceous earth, bentonite clay, you name it, colloidal silver, and then it further compounds their de-evolution. Okay, so and I get it now with the whole thing with protein docking. I mean, I'm telling you, way back when in what was it, 2000, when I dated that dude that was in that postdoc in biotech, and I learned about protein docking, and I knew it had something to do with like protein and docking and molecular binding, but I don't know what the hell it really meant in the bigger picture. It was just interesting to me because I'm interested in people. I'm interested in what they do. I'm interested in how the world works because I never measured up when I was a kid. You know, I didn't graduate high school and I never really was able to assimilate to the people in Silicon Valley. So then I made up for it in my 20s and 30s and was so inquisitive and so interested in what everybody was doing. And that's how I learned how the world worked, because I put myself in situations where I learned the different microbiomes, you know, living in different places, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Arizona, and, you know, online dating or whatever, right? Met some really interesting people and some really crazy people. Been into a different country like China. So it's like, you know, if you're inquisitive and you really are very interested in how the world works, all the information that you pick up will eventually you'll use, and you'll be able to see the bigger picture. But you won't see the connection until you learn how the world works, which means how does your body work? And then how your body works doesn't tell you how the freaking world works, because everything is connected. Politics, religion, and science are connected. Okay? Body, mind, and spirit in your community, in your state, in your uh, continent, and everything, you know, your county, all of it's connected. And if you think that everything is all separate and compartmentalized in different contexts, and you don't want to see how everything is connected, then you will stay stuck in your tunnel vision and you won't see how it all works, and then you'll be subject to somebody else's programming. Okay? So I drop enough information for you guys to do your own research, utilizing the foundational texts such as academia and PubMed. We're like, why do you think they're correct? Because all they're doing, see, academia and PubMed, yes, they do have a specific slant on stuff, right? That's their problems and that's their solutions. But reactions are, you know, are going to be universal based upon the triggers in the environment. But they will give you what, like a dictionary. You want to know what facts are? Go to a dictionary. A dictionary will tell you exactly what's a fact and what's a truth and what's a perception. Truth and perception are the same thing. It's a context. A fact can only be a noun. It cannot be an adjective. It cannot be a verb. It can't be an adverb. It can't be an adjective. It has to be only a noun. Okay? And so when you have a word that can be a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb, whatever, then you know you're dealing with different context. Okay? And so that's what you have to understand is the English language. That's where the Freemasons, way back when, knew what to study, knew how to study logic, math, and the English language, grammar. Because that's how you can program someone to think that death is okay. Oh yeah, it's okay to have a high immune response with high antibodies. It means that it's going to stop you from dying as it's killing you systematically. I mean, yeah, when you have 6 trillion cells and then all the different antibiotics and antibodies may take, you know, down 1 million cells every year, you're still alive, but you're now working, instead of at 100% capacity, now you're working at 90% capacity, and the next year you're working at 80% capacity, and the next year you're working at 70% capacity. So you lose 10% of your life every single year. That's exactly the medical holistic industry, is you're losing 10% of your life every year if you really want to break it down to simplistic formulas. And so Jeju says, okay, we're going to recharge your battery. The salt is basically your battery. You have battery packs in every single one of your cells. The salt is a conductor. You are now recharging your battery when you're dealing with, because you're in a world that's electric. So the 5G is helping you recharge with the salt, with the probiotics, with the micro and macronutrition, with the water, all of that. And then you're releasing the excess, absorbing what you need. It's all connected. You are now recharging yourself. So instead of being at 40% capacity or 50% capacity, now you're at 100% capacity. You just recharged your phone. You recharged your battery. And that's what Jelly Juice does. It recharges your battery, because the medical holistic industry keeps taking your life away systematically. And I would say, I'll just round up to high numbers, or to round numbers. You know, 10% a year, you're losing your life force. And then when you have these viruses and the bioengineered antibodies being released through vaccination and the shedding, then you're losing more of your life force, because you're inducing more antibodies and you're not releasing the excess, and you're not regenerating using the prostaglandins that are to your benefit. They're using, the medical holistic industry is using your own body against you. And then you have then the exotic disease like autoimmunity, and then you're under a doctor's care, under a control of somebody else. You have implants in your body that read off your biochemistry levels. And then when that way you don't have to get up in the morning to go and do something. You just look at your phone like, oh yeah, I'm short here. So then you go and take your little pill, and now you're all better, and until you have nothing left. That's exactly what you're under, is a medical holistic tyranny out there. And the J juice counters that programming. But you have to understand what it takes. And so, yes, Jilly Juice brings life back to you. But you have to understand what these antibodies are doing, these monoclonal antibodies, as well as then all the antibiotics in the holistic world, and all the different therapies out there. I don't care what therapy it is. It's all inducing antibodies, reinfecting you. You're not healing from the therapies out there, whether it's chirotherapy, chiropractic stuff, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's antibody therapy, whether it's whatever therapy, exercise therapy, is not working to your benefit. You have to understand that every single time you go out there and you work, you're utilizing energy, you are expending energy, you're utilizing your body, and you have to regenerate those cells. If you're not regenerating those cells, then you are at a deficit, and then the rest of your community and your society is also at a deficit, and they will compound your death acceleration unless you counter the death programming. That's the Jilly Juice. It counters the death programming. You have to get this. You must get this. So good luck to you guys, but you have to understand what these monoclonal antibodies are being bioengineered for, is to keep taking away 10%, 20% of your life every single freaking year until your life expectancy is about 50 or 60, or you're living such a long time with all of your disease. And so you wonder why, Kissinger is still alive. He's still aging, and so is Bill Gates. He's still aging too, but he's not aging as fast as some of you. But he's still aging. Okay? So just understand this, that they haven't figured out either. Kissinger hasn't figured it out, neither has Bill Gates. But they're trying to figure out how to control you and control your children. Because let me tell you, your children are developing very fast. You guys are saying, oh yeah, my kid is so advanced, they're so mature, they're so smart. Well, yeah, when you have so many antibodies accelerating the maturity process, yes, these kids are going to be maturing so much faster than you did back in your day, back in the 80s or the 60s or the 50s. But when you age faster, you die faster. When kids are maturing faster, guess what? They're dying faster and contracting cancer, disease, and chronic illness faster and dying faster. So just because your kid is maturing faster doesn't make them a genius. It just makes them that they're basically in the presence of antibodies accelerating their maturity process, and they may not be able to handle the way of the world because their body and their mind are not aligned as far as the maturing process. Their body's maturing faster than their mind is. And they're being programmed to the system. So you got to understand what is really going on here. You have to understand, it's not about tracking. You are already being tracked. Social media is tracking me. I'm being tracked by everybody. The FBI knows who I am. The CIA knows who I am. Okay, Dr. Phil made sure that all of you freaking know who I am and think that I'm the demon, but I'm telling you, I know exactly what's going on. And you guys need to know exactly what's going on. If not, you will be subject to the accelerated death process because you're exposed to monoclonal antibodies that you're not releasing. And then you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to feel pain. So you're going to do all your drugs and all of your, drinking and alcohol and all that stuff. And you're going to take all your little remedies and your pills and your cannabis. And then you will go and be recycled back to the universe. So good luck. Bye.